Hi, and welcome to another live class. Today, we're going to be looking at relative clauses. Remember, this class is in English because this is level B1 or intermediate level. So everything is in English. Remember that if you're a member of my channel, then you can join the conference and participate in the class. Right now in the conference, I have Maria. Hi, Maria. How are you? Can you hear me? Well, I don't think she can hear me. Let's have a look in the chat. Who we got in the chat? We've got Sasha, Fernandez, Liz, Jimenez, Vivi, Christian. So let's begin the class then. So let me just get the screen on the computer. So today the subject is relative clauses. So let's begin with some simple examples. So what is a relative clause? What is a relative clause? Here we have an example of a relative clause. A camera is a thing which takes photographs. A camera is a thing which takes photographs. So this is an example of a relative clause. Specifically, down here I've broken up this simple sentence. This simple sentence has two clauses. A clause, first of all, what is a clause? A clause is a group of words which have a subject and a verb. So here we have
next stop,
one clause. Oh, we can hear the bus in New York, I think. Hi, Maria. Hi, Maria. Can you hear me? We can hear your bus. Oh, anyway, back to the explanation. Sorry. A camera is a thing which takes photographs. So we have two clauses here. A clause is, hi, Maria. Can you hear me?
Hi, teacher. How are you?
Fine. Where are you? Are you on the bus?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear the doors.
You listening?
Yeah, I can hear the bus is speaking in English. Because
Yes.
You're in New York, yeah, I think.
Yes. When the bus started in every station, the address.
Yeah, it's tells you about the doors. Okay, let's carry on with the class.
A camera is a thing which takes a photograph.
Photographs. So actually, yeah, we can just normally most people in English just say
relative pronoun. A camera is a thing
photos.
Takes...
Camera is a thing which takes photos. Let's make it easier. So let's carry on with the class. Let's carry on with the class.
This stop is Forest Harding Expressway.
I'm just gonna turn you off for a minute, Maria, because the bus is very noisy. A camera is a thing which takes photographs. So here we have two clauses. The first clause is the main clause. A camera is a thing, and here is the verb in the main clause. Here is. And then we have another clause, that is because we have another verb here. This is the relative clause. Here is the verb takes. So we're joining these two clauses together with what we call a relative pronoun. So underneath I have two sentences which say the same thing. The first sentence is, a camera is a thing, full stop. It takes photographs. So what we're doing with this sentence here is joining the two clauses together. And we're basically replacing the subject pronoun here, it, with the relative pronoun which. A camera is a thing which takes photographs, or a camera is a thing which takes photos. So this is a relative clause. So the relative pronoun, use the relative pronoun which for things. Here, in this down here, a camera is a thing. It takes photographs. The it is a subject pronoun which we use for a thing. this pronoun is replacing the noun a camera. And here it's the same. A camera is a thing. So we need to use the relative pronoun which, because which is the relative pronoun that we use for things. Let's carry on with another example. In this example here, it's not a thing, it's a person. A nurse is a person who looks after the sick. A nurse is a person who looks after the sick. So again, underneath here, we can see we've got the main clause. A nurse is a person, and we got the relative clause, who looks after the sick. The difference here is that this time we are using the relative pronoun who. When the subject of the relative clause is a person, we need to use who. We cannot say which. So here, a nurse is a person, full stop. She, the subject pronoun is she. We are replacing the subject pronoun with who. So if we're talking about a thing, we need to use which as the relative pronoun. And if we're talking about a person, we need to use who as the relative pronoun. Let's carry on with another example. This time is similar. A bank is a place where you can deposit and withdraw cash. A bank is a place where you can deposit or withdraw cash. So this time we're not using a relative pronoun here. We're actually called a relative adverb, but it serves the same purpose. So again, we have the main clause. A bank is a place where you can deposit or withdraw cash. So I could put that in two sentences and say, a bank is a place, full stop. You can deposit money or withdraw cash there. Actually, I changed this. I put the money and illustrate that out just to stop confusion. You can deposit or withdraw cash there. So this time we're talking about a place. The subject of the relative clause is a place. So we're using where. So just to recap on those three, if the subject of the relative clause is a thing, use which. A camera is a thing which takes photographs, or we can just change this to photos. If the subject of the relative clause is a person, use who. A nurse is a person who looks after the sick. And if the subject of the relative clause is a place, use where. A bank is a place when where you can deposit or withdraw cash. Finally, I've got added another one here. We can also use the relative pronoun whose for possession. It's like saying of who or of which. And here I've got a couple of examples. Sorry. That's the boy whose father is in prison. That's like saying, that's the boy, the father of that boy is in prison. The father of that boy is in prison. That's the boy whose father is in prison. Another example. That's the company whose offices are near my house. Another way of saying that would be, that's the company, how can I say that another way? That's the company which has offices near my house. So whose for like possession. So we've seen today 4 relative pronouns, or one was a relative adjective, but it serves the same purpose. Which for things, who for people, what's the other one? Which, who, forgotten the other one. Where for places, and whose for possession. So let's carry on then, see what else we've got here. So all of these, there are two types of relative clauses. I think we'll look at the two types in a minute. But first of all, in the type that we've seen, which are called defining relative clauses, in a minute I'll explain that, we can replace the who with that. So we have two choices with this type. We can say, the woman who lives next door is a teacher. Or we can say, the woman that lives next door is a teacher. Both forms are correct. Another example, I know a lot of people who are learning English. I know a lot of people that are learning English. So in these two examples, and in all the examples that we've seen with people, we can replace the who with that. And if the subject of the relative clause is a thing, we can replace the which with that. So we can use that. He works for a company that makes laptops. A watch is a thing that measures time. Or we can say he works for a company which makes laptops, or a watch is a thing which measures time. So basically, when we're talking about people or things, as we saw here, we can replace this with that. We can say either for people and things. A camera is a thing that takes photos, or a camera is a thing which takes photographs or takes photos. A nurse is a person who looks after the sick, or a nurse is a person that looks after the sick. With places, we cannot use that. We need to use where, and with possession, we need to use whose. Okay, so in all of the examples that we've seen so far that have people or places, we can actually use that. So you don't need to learn two words for these. You only need to learn one word, which is that. But there is another type of relative clause, because all of these relative clauses that we have seen so far are what we call defining relative clause. So a defining relative clause contains essential information. A defining relative clause contains essential information. What that means is if you remove the relative clause, the sentence loses its meaning. So a camera is a thing that takes photographs, or which takes photographs. Let's change this to photos. If I remove this part, if I remove that part, the sentence loses its meaning. A camera is a thing. That's it. Doesn't have the information that I wanted to tell you. I did that wrong. Let's go back and insert. I want to do. So this is what we mean by a defining relative clause. A nurse is a person who looks after the sick, or that looks after the sick. If I remove that, the sentence doesn't have any meaning. A nurse is a person. I didn't want to tell you that. I wanted to tell you what a nurse did. So another example, we need the relative clause. That's the house where I was born. This is a defining relative clause, because if I remove that, the sentence loses its meaning. That's the house. It doesn't tell you what I wanted to tell you. So this is what we mean by a defining relative clause. But there is another type of relative clause, non-defining relative clauses. A non-defining relative clause, let's make that yellow, give extra non-essential information. So these ones are more like adjectives. So with these ones, you must place non-defining relative clauses between commas or a comma and a full stop. So let's look at some examples. This house, which was built in 1880, is worth $1 billion. So in this is non-defining because I can actually remove that part there. Let's make it a different color. If I remove that part, I can say this house is worth $1 billion. That is the essential information. This information here is additional information. So I need to put a comma here and a comma here. This is separated by commas. And these ones here, they don't contain any commas. Second thing, in this type of relative clause, you cannot use that. In non-defining, you cannot use that. We are not allowed to use that in non-defining relative clauses. Let's just put that out. You can only use which. In the defining ones, for people or things, we have the option of using that. But in the non-defining ones, we cannot use that for things or people. We have to use which or who. Here's another example. Last week, I visited my uncle who is over 100 years old. Here, the essential information is that last week I visited my uncle who is over 100 years old. This is additional extra information. It's not essential. I can just tell you last week I visited my uncle. The other information is additional. So again, here you cannot use that. So this is probably why it's better when you're learning English to avoid using that completely and just use which for things and who for people, because then you don't need to worry about whether it's defining or non-defining, because we can use those for both. So that's wrong. Couple more examples that I've got here. Brighton is a town. Where I was born is by the sea. So this is a relative clause with where. Remember, always the relative clause is always separated by the commas when you write it. Here's the comma here. This one actually has a comma here and it finishes here with a full stop. So it's either between commas, as in this example, comma, comma, or comma, full stop if it's at the end of the sentence, or here we have comma, comma. With the last example, my friend whose wife just got a new job lives in London. So these are non-defining. That means that I can remove that information. My friend lives in London. That makes sense. So remember, with defining relative clauses, no commas when you write it, and you can replace which with that, and you can replace who with that. Non-defining, which give extra information, you need to use commas when you write it, and you cannot use that. Okay, let's continue with the next slide. If anyone has any questions in the chat, Maria, do you have any questions, Maria?
94th Street and 58th Avenue.
I can hear the bus. Do you have any questions, Maria? Can you hear me? Maria, do you have any questions?
Hello, teacher.
Hi, do you have any questions, Maria?
No, in this moment, no, teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, this moment, no, teacher. I'm putting attention. No, teacher, thank you. I'm putting attention.
Did you pay attention?
This stop is 94th
No,
Street and 58th
no, teacher, thank you.
Busy on the bus? Okay, let's carry on. Let's carry on with the next one. Some more examples, basically. I just read the examples. The house that is under construction will be beautiful. So I'll just put here, highlight the relative clauses. The baby who was born yesterday is precious. Our car, this is non-defining. The first two were defining. Our car, which we bought on Saturday, needs new brakes already. Spaghetti, which we eat, again, another non-defining one separated by commas and using which. Spaghetti, which we eat at least twice a week, is one of our family's favorites. Favorite meal, sorry. Where did you buy the dress that you wore last week? Here's the relative clause. Akia is defining, so here we could actually use which if we wanted. Can use which or that. Where did you buy that? The dress which you wore last week. She lives in New York, which she likes. This one non-defining with the comma. She lives in New York, which she likes. I like the woman who lives next door. I like the woman who lives next door. This is defining. I live in London, which has some fantastic parks. Non-defining. So maybe the people who or that live on the island are very friendly. Defining. The man who or that phoned is my brother. Defining, no comma, we can use who or that for a person. The camera, which costs £100, is over there, or that costs £100 is over there. This is defining. The house which or that belongs to Julie is in London. Again, it's defining. Most of them here are defining, so we can use which or that for things and who or that for people. Okay, so I think that covers everything. I've got some questions. Let's have a look at the questions. I think I need to make all this smaller because it's too big. So I've got some definitions here using relative clauses, and I want people in the chat and in the conference. I only got one person in the conference. Remember that if you join my channel, you can participate in the class. Let's just change these smaller because they don't fit on the screen. So I want you to guess the things. You've got to guess the things. We've got Maria and we've got some people in the chat. Not many, but some people. So it's a person who is young and not an adult yet. Maria, what do you call a person who is young and not an adult yet? Or anybody in the chat?
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, teacher.
Are you paying? Are you paying attention?
I lost a video.
What do we call a person who is young and not an adult? What about in the chat? Has anyone got the answer in the chat? The bus is very noisy. Do you have the answer to this, Maria? Or anybody in the chat? Can anybody in the chat answer this? No response from the chat and no response from Maria. So I'm going to give the answer here. The answer here is, put this down here. A person who is young and not an adult yet is a child. A child, yeah? So, second question, or second definition. It's a thing that makes money by producing or selling goods or services. What is it? Well, I've lost Maria in the chat now, so I've only got her in the conference. She's disappeared. There's no one else in there. So is anybody actually in the chat? Because I don't seem to be seeing any messages here. Probably something wrong. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the chat was not working correctly. I wasn't getting the messages. I've just seen the messages come up. Sorry about that. We've got, I think I saw another member of the channel. I think Norma, you are a member of the channel. You can join the conference, Norma. If you wish to join the conference, Norma, you can join the conference. You need to go to. Let me just get the link. Where's the link? You will need to go to the. It's disappeared. This link here. I'm going to put the link in there now. Actually, wasn't receiving the chat messages. So I think, yeah, Norma, you can go to that link and join the conference if you wish. So the second one, has anyone got the answer to the second one? A teenager. Yeah, a teenager, a person who's young or not. It could be a teenager too. Yeah, I said a child, but I guess it could be a teenager. Child or a teenager. Good. What about a business? Yeah, it's a thing that makes money by producing or selling goods or services. Yeah, it could be a business. Actually, I was thinking more of a company, but I guess it's more or less the same thing. So a business or a company. Very good. Nubia. Juan Manuel has got a store, but I'm not sure if a store sells services and it doesn't produce things. We've got three definitions there: produce, sell, or sell services. And a store really only sells goods. Goods is physical objects, physical things for sale. It's a unit of time which consists of 24 hours. What could it be? A unit of time which consists of 24 hours. Anybody in the chat? Not sure if my chat is working again. It's very. Let's have a look on here. A day, yeah. Juan Manuel says a day. Very good. Rit says a day. And Gregory says a day. These are the correct answers. Good. A day. It's an organ which you use to see with. What do you use to see with? Remember, these are all relative clauses. Which you use to see with. So one thing with these is these can be used to actually, that's not a good color there, I don't think. If you're speaking English, yeah, it's an I, very good. If you're speaking English and you don't know a word, you can use a relative clause to try and explain that word. For example, if you don't know how to say I in English, you can say, oh, it's a thing you use to see with, or it's a thing which you use or that you use to see with. Oh, it's an I if you don't know the word for I. Or if you don't know the word for child, you can say, oh, it's a young person who is not an adult yet. You can try and you can paraphrase a word. If you don't know the word in English, it's very useful when you're speaking English to try and explain it using other words. And you can use these relative clauses to do that. So now my program seems to have locked up. Yeah, what's happened? I don't have the, okay. It's an I. The last one, it's a group of people who are responsible for controlling a country or a state. It's a group of people who are responsible for controlling a country or a state. Who can give me the answer to this one? I don't have anyone in the Conference. Who can give me an answer? A lot of people got the last one right. Government. Very good, Gregory. And Irma too. It's the government. The government. Good. Okay, let's carry on with some more questions. More questions. In these ones here, we need to put the correct relative pronoun. The correct relative pronoun. Let me just make these smaller because they're too big. So we drove past the house. You need a magnifying glass. I think it's that small. Come on. I think I'll check it on my cell phone. It shouldn't be that small. I can definitely see it on my tablet fine. It's font 14, so if it's blurry, it's the same problem. You basically need to increase the resolution on your options. Make sure you're watching the video in high definition. Make sure you're watching the video in high definition. Somewhere in the options on YouTube or this video, it comes up. Let's have a look on my cell phone just to check, because somebody tells me they can't see it. So I'll try it on my cell phone, which has really not a very good cell phone, even has a cracked screen. So if I can see it, anybody can see it. Who's got the answer? We drove past the house. We drove past the house. Anybody got the answer here? Is that still working? Has anybody got the answer? So yeah, I mean, if you view it like this, it's pretty difficult. But even then, I mean, I've got really bad eyes, and I can still read it. I'm getting the sound back now. And if you go into the options on the video, I don't know where it is actually on here. If you're on a cell phone and you click the three dots, you're going to come up with, I always tell people this, you're going to come up with quality settings. Quality settings. This right now is on 480. So we can actually click there, and if you change it to 720, the quality is going to improve a lot. And looking at the video like this, I can very easily read that text on there. So probably if it's blurry, it's because you don't have the resolution set. So number one, which we drove past the house. No, it's a place. Yeah, it's here we think of it as a place. So Juan Manuel has the correct answer, and so does Irma. Where? The correct answer is where. Good. Number two, the boy. The boy who. Very good. Who said that? Gregory. Very good. Who? The boy who. Look, that's the man. What about this one? Number three. Who's got the answer to number three? That's the man. Number three is not who, no. Number three, no. Gregory is not who. It's not who. Anybody got the answer? Yeah, Irma, congratulations. Look, that's the man whose son is in a band. The bicycle was an invention. Number four, sorry. Number four. The bicycle was an invention. Whose? No. Whose? Number five. I think we're on number four. We're on number 4. Gregory is putting who's for everything, but that's incorrect. It's not who's for number 4. Which, yeah, the bicycle was an invention, which. Good. Remember, with these ones too, you couldn't put that. But at the top, I didn't put that. Which or that. The boy who was talking to you. That was the boy that was talking to you. Yeah, this one too. We could put that. Is that the shop you bought your laptop? Is that the shop? Number 5. Is that the shop? Which? No. Well, number 4, yeah, is correct. Sorry, Nubia's just got number 4. But we're on number 5 now. It's because there's a delay in the chat. A delay in the chat. Where? Yeah, is that the shop where you bought your laptop? Good. What's the name of your friend? Daughter is a singer. What's the name of your friend? What's the name of your friend? What's the name of your friend? Who? No, not who. Who? No. Who? No. Who's? Rip Beast. Very good. Who's? What's the name of your friend? Whose daughter is a singer? The man called this morning didn't leave a message. The man called this morning didn't leave a message. The man called this morning didn't leave a message. Number 7. Number 7. Number 7, Gregory says who? Very good. The man who called this morning didn't leave a message. It's the movie won all the Oscars last year. It's the movie won all the Oscars last year. Number 8. Number 8. It's the movie. Number 8, with. No, with. We got complete with is con. The relative pronouns we got are who, which, where, or whose. This is not a relative pronoun. It's the movie. Rip B says which, and Juan Manuel which, and Irma which. Yeah, it's the movie which. It's the movie which. This is the book everybody is reading at the moment. This is the book. Number 9. Which is number 8, says Gregory. Yeah, number 8 is which. What about number 9? Who's got the answer to number 9? Yeah, you can use that. It's possible. Actually, up at the top, I said use that. We can use that or which because it's defining. So, good. Now, in these ones here, there's a mistake. Find the mistake. What is the problem with this? What's the problem? What's the mistake? What's the mistake? What's the mistake? Correct the mistake. Number 1. What's the mistake? Yeah, Argelis says that. This is the mistake. Why? What is the correct? What's the correct word that we need to put there? What's the correct word that we need to put there? Anybody? Why is this wrong? Why is this wrong? I should have people in the conference, really. Can anyone tell me what is the correct? This is wrong. This is wrong. I can't say that. What do I need to say? What do I need to say? Who? No. Oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry, yeah, I thought it was a thing. Yeah, sorry. It says who, and that is the correct answer. Who? The reason is that this one here is non-defining. Non-defining. So here we have a comma. Here we have another comma. So remember, in non-defining, we cannot use that. We have to use who. In this case, it's a person, so we have to use who. Our neighbor whose house is smaller than ours has a big family. What's the problem in this one? What's the problem? What's the problem? Yeah, Maria, you left the class. What happened to you? Did you leave? You left the subway. Oh, you were on the subway. I thought you were on the bus. So, what's the problem with this sentence? What's the mistake with this sentence? What's the mistake with this sentence? Anybody tell me the mistake with this sentence? Can anybody tell me the mistake with this sentence? I've got nobody in the conference. Can somebody tell me the mistake with this sentence? Don't seem to be getting any messages. Maybe this has gone wrong again. Let's have a look. Who? Yeah, neighbor. Who? Not. Yeah, who is the mistake? Good. What is the correct word that needs to go here? This is the mistake. Let's make that red. What do we need to use here? Can anybody know? Where? No. Where? No. Which? No. Who? No. Which? No. Somebody got the correct answer. This is which? No. Maria, whose? Yeah, but actually she spelt who's wrong, but it's the correct answer, whose. And Maria actually spelt the whose incorrectly, but the pronunciation is the same. Yeah, the correct one here is whose. And the way Maria spelt it was she wrote whose. So both of these are pronounced in the same way. But this one, the first one, the pronunciation is the same, whose and whose. But this one is the contraction of who is. And this one is used for possession. Possession. So the correct one there is whose. Our neighbor whose house is smaller than ours has a big family. Is the same. Well, I don't know what you're referring to actually, but the pronunciation of those two is the same. Whose and whose. The pronunciation is the same, but they have different meanings and they're written differently. James that goes to my school is bilingual. What's the problem? James that goes to my school is bilingual. Yeah, that's okay, Maria. Number 3, James that goes to my school. Who? Yeah, here, look, here we've got a comma. And here we've got another comma. That means that this one is non-defining. And in non-defining relative clauses, we cannot use that. Let's put that back there and make it red. we need to use which. So that is wrong. We can't use that. Remember, non-defining are ones that contain extra information. The important information here is that James is bilingual. The other bit, actually, sorry, it's not which, it's because it's a person. Sorry, I've put it wrong, it's who, sorry. James, who? So this is extra information, who goes to my school. Finally, after London, we went to Paris that we loved. And I'm not sure if people have got, after London, we went number 4. After London, we went to Paris that we loved. Anybody? After London, which, yeah, because again, this, here we got a comma. So this again is a non-defining. That means this information is extra information. After London, we went to Paris. This is the important information. And this is non-essential information. When it's non-essential information, we cannot use that as the relative pronoun. We need to use which. So with that, I come to the end of this class. I have nobody in the conference. Maria was in the conference earlier, but she left. Remember, if you join my channel, you can participate directly in the class with voice. Also, the screens, I'm making them available after the class so that people can download them in PDF format. So that's everything for today. Thanks for everybody. Thanks to Evelyn, Gregory, Irma, Leticia, Beast, Maria, who's a member, Angelis, Ollie. I think that's everybody. Juan Manuel, thanks for participating, and see you again, I think, on Thursday. I'm going to be continuing right now this B1 level, which is intermediate level, and after that, I'm going to start B2 level. I think I've nearly finished B1. So thanks to everybody. Goodbye, and see you again soon, I hope.